You're the elder North Sider.
Right. As we are talking about is our love and affinity for North High School. Last time I checked, there's only one high school in North Minneapolis. Bad joke for everybody.
Yeah.
I love it. No, there's not. There's one. As you see, I have a great love for North High School, and we fought hard. And actually, there was an actual budget issue around North High School. And our cousins to the north, Henry High School, have done an amazing job to continue the great legacy and education in North Minneapolis. But what we're talking about is really developing, when we're talking about the issue of budgets, it's the game. I mean, quite honestly, without the money, there's nothing else. We like to imagine that the great ideas and the belief that the will that we all are believing that our better angels are going to appear in a budget. But when we really think about it, it is, Terry, I think you said it best, it's a battle. Last year, $1.2 billion or so were allocated to deal with the business of the city of Minneapolis. A good chunk of that is normally, is already allocated to deal with issues of our interest and debts and pensions and all those things. Those are pretty set. But when we get into the discretionary, to figure out exactly what we're trying to accomplish as a city for the next year, that's when the fun begins. There are over 400,000 residents of the city of Minneapolis, close to about 265,000 households, and I'm trying to pull that off to the top of my head. A good number of them a great number pay taxes. We have our commercial corridors. We have various ways that we have our resources brought in. And then we have to figure out exactly what we want to spend it on. We've been talking about this thing called equity for quite some time now. And let's be very blunt. Over the past couple of years, we have fallen not short, but almost non-existent, including last year. At the end, we fought about $600,000 to really get to the point of things tonight. $600,000 off of a $1.2 billion is an accounting error, basically. And we spent pretty much a month and a half discussing whether or not we should have 2 additional positions to drive equity, to have an additional position to deal with sustainability, which definitely should be falling within the equity conversation, to study whether or not there's a disparative impact within the city of Minneapolis, which is mandated. And actually that money did not get through, but it's still going to happen because you have to prove that you have the disparative impact. But it's going to cost pretty much the Civil Rights Department a chance to be able to add additional people to deal with their backlog, which is again an inequitable act. So after all the fun and games and kicks and giggles that took place in that last meeting specifically, we start to see exactly where our council, where it was. And we're far short. We're far short. The conversation basically centered around whether or not a city that it's very clear that we have 2 communities, if not 3, in the grand scheme of things, should start to invest in its future and hold true to what it said in its values earlier in the year, that equity was job 1. What was amazing was the reasoning behind not spending the additional dollar in order to make it happen. Just to rewind, just to touch so everybody understands where we're at with this. There was a request, council, I'm going to try to leave names out as best as possible to protect the innocent, but the reality is that it'll get a little personal. Council member from Southwest Minneapolis said, I'm getting complaints from my constituency that we are spending too much on certain things that are not core services, and it's affecting our tax base. She was able to rally up 6 other individuals. In the city of Minneapolis, all you need is 7 votes in order to pass. 9 to get vetoed. Now, I want to point that out very clearly because we'll get there. We'll get to that point. There was a battle that ensued. A battle took place to be able to protect those 2 additional positions as related to equity. And again, there's always a debate whether or not, and Jamez, I'm going to hit this, Jamez and Coco, I'll hit this real quick, whether equity gets in the way of efficiency. There's always going to be that battle. And we have to redefine exactly that battle. That is not necessarily about the issue of efficiency, but the issue of fairness, equity. To truly begin to raise the potential for all of our communities to be just as solid as everybody else. In Minneapolis, we actually have a chance to be an equitable society. In the metropolitan area, we're well positioned if we take the chance to, have the courage to do it. But most times that we don't, because I get a call from my constituency and I'm not happy. So now the fight ensues. The battle between one side of town, that's literally falsely pitted between one side of town and another side of town. Well, in my line of work as a policy consultant, specifically around the issue of equity, I have to remind my clients this one simple thing. What's your win? And how does that win truly affect all? What we didn't do a good job of last time around in that budget battle is explain how the win is for all. That the additional dollar spent by our friends in Southwest, because the rest of the city was pretty much held harmless to this. But somehow, some way, members from our communities that were greatly affected voted with the cuts. Let me say that again. Individuals who represent our communities voted with the cuts. So we have to start to ask ourselves this one question. What is our overall value? Do we believe that it's in our best interest? They say, show me your budget and I'll see your value, is basically paraphrasing quickly. The reality is that in the city of Minneapolis, for $600,000, and we cut that, we told us what our values were. So as advocates, as fellows of this great institute that Nexus has put together, what you have to start to really hold your broader community accountable to the ideas of what's the win for all of us. If we start to position ourselves properly, because again, without money, you cannot do anything. Without money, there is no programming. Without money, there is no contracts. Without money, that's all it is. But if you're trying to truly start to deal with the social ills of our society, you have to start to make some grand adjustments in order to get there. The city of Minneapolis spent $1.2 billion. We argued over $600,000 of it. Most of our community was not affected by the taxes. So you have to start to ask yourself out in this room, did we do an effective job in order to share what was needed? And the city of Minneapolis goes through a budgeting process every year. So just imagine how much fun we're going to have this time around. Two of the positions that were actually cut at the end were to provide communication services, communication positions for the Hmong and Somali community. As we're trying to bring other individuals into our process, we have to start to ask ourselves the question, is this truly an equitable society or equitable budget? So I'm looking forward to this very interesting conversation with you guys and figure out strategies how to prepare for this upcoming year. Because we fell down on the job this year. We fought for the wrong things, we set and we created our wrong ideas. We need to really rethink how we budget, and we really need to hold true with our values are. So with that, I think you guys want to go ahead, and how are we going to do this? All right. So looking forward to the conversation, everybody.